Now, on Enough Said, with KFAN Radio's Dan Barrero.
I agree 100% with Trump. I think it was, the Zimmer news, I think, is not totally surprising. And my guess in talking to some people is that it might have more to do with the money.
Enough Said.
A country where all our children can dream and those dreams are within reach. Where families are strong, communities are safe, and yes, where love trumps hate. And so, my friends, it is with humility, determination, and boundless confidence in America's promise that I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
Welcome back to another edition of Enough Said. My name's Dan Barrero, joined by Justin Gard, and if I can see in that little box, it looks like, I think that's Lori Fisher. Hi, Lori.
Hi, guys.
Welcome
We're
back.
back together again, and Brett's here, too.
Good to have you.
So let's get going. Thanks. Hillary Clinton is hitting the road to campaign after accepting the Democratic presidential nomination. Supporters are calling her speech moving, and Donald Trump is calling it recycled rhetoric. Dan?
I hope, for her sake, that, and for the audience's sake, that Goldman Sachs speech she gave, that famous one, was better than this. Because I thought it was.
Really?
I agree 100% with Trump. I think it was. Here's the problem. First of all, she's not a good speech maker.
Not
we
typically.
already know that.
Yes, we did.
And I didn't think yesterday was. I think part of the part of the complimenting she's getting is the expectation level when she gives a speech is so damn low.
Good point.
That's part of why people think it was okay. Here, I look at. I'm not a great cook. Are you a good cook?
No, terrible.
Okay. So to me, it reminds me of like a recipe where the cook just keeps throwing stuff in. You know, says, well, no, that the thing says that's enough, but I may add a sprinkle of this and a teaspoon of that. And by the end of the process, it's like I'm checking every box. She checked every box, which does nothing for me. I'd rather have some kind of a recurring theme rather than, okay, every interest, that's part of the Democratic Party, I have satisfied by what I've said. It did nothing.
Well, and if you go to the website, you can get even more interest that she didn't bring up in the speech. I read something where there's something, if you don't like how horses are treated in a barn, she's your candidate. She did check everything. But isn't that better than someone who checks literally no boxes in their acceptance speeches? And that's what I think their point was. See, I didn't think, now this is faint praise, you're right. She didn't do herself any harm in my book. And I know that's not a great compliment, but I actually thought the second part of her speech, I think the one you're talking about where she was going through the boxes, that's where she's most comfortable, so why not go there? Why not talk policy, even if it means go, from A to Z through everything? I didn't hate it. She had a lot to live up to, granted, with what went on at the convention before her. But I don't think it did her any harm, which it could have. It wasn't one of her worst speeches of all time.
I don't think it helped her. It may not have hurt her, but I don't think it helped her. Now,
I think that's
again,
all she needed.
The contrast
from what happened.
Obviously, Obama gave a great speech, and I was in the group that agreed with that. But in a way, that bugged me too, because I thought one of her good moments was when she basically said, I think she kind of intimated, I'm not a great speech maker, but I'm a roll up the sleeves.
I'm more about the service than the public.
Get in the weeds and do the dirty work.
Yep.
And that, to me, has been my frustration with this president was some Democrats even admitted he didn't like to get in the weeds all that much. He didn't like that hold your nose process where you do have to schmooze and talk. And I know that some Republicans would have made that impossible.
Yep.
But even Democrats said he didn't do enough of that. And so, to a certain extent, hearing his soaring rhetoric, to me, that doesn't mean all that much 8 years in.
And he can do a good speech. And
yes, we already knew
there's one thing about the president, he can always give a good speech.
Yes.
He's done
we have to
it
leave it
basically
there.
at all the conventions.
Correct.
Enough said, but let's stay on the politics beat. Let's talk about Republican nominee Donald Trump. He's facing fallout after essentially inviting Russia to meddle in American politics. Take a listen.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
Now, afterwards, he said he was being sarcastic when referring to Clinton's deleted emails. Dan?
Well, the problem that Don Trump has, or maybe this is why he's as popular as he's been and he's a Republican nominee, I don't know which it is it's impossible to tell when he's being sarcastic and kidding.
Yeah.
Then the answer to that is, Don, when are you serious? And isn't it convenient that the moment you get some pushback, oh, I didn't mean that. This other stuff I meant, that I didn't. It was a ridiculous thing to say. Those emails are probably gone anyway. But again, for a lot of people, it was, lock them up. And this is the thing that's going to end up ruining the bid. He ended up that whole day of the Democratic convention being
the story. Yeah.
And carrying the story with his another one of his weird news conferences, which I do give him credit. He gives them. I don't know how much you get out of it, but he gives them, quite a bit.
Is it different now that the adults on the Democratic side have sunk their teeth in? Like Biden was all over him. Obama was all over him. Obviously, Hillary's going to be to a certain extent, and I think she'll probably be a better debater, I would think. It's going to be wild.
Right.
We know the debates are going to be wild. But is it different now that they've got their attack dogs, so to speak, out on the trail that are going to be able to go point by point and actually mention why this is a big deal? Because I understand what he's trying to make it about the emails. We know that, right?
Yeah.
If you look at it through that lens only, it's a pretty good cheap shot.
Yeah.
The problem is he doesn't understand how embarrassing and possibly reckless, destructive that he doesn't understand that.
The emails, I talked about this on the radio a lot, that the emails, if you're a Republican, you can rub your hands together and be delighted with what those emails that were hacked revealed about the rigged nature of the process. But you also have to realize that can go around back on you, and when it's, we think, and we don't know, this is another thing, I don't think we know it's the Ruskies, but that's been the allegation.
Yep.
It's a foreign country, that should scare people. I will say, though, going back to the emails, as you point out, it's a little precious to hear from the Clinton people, though, how serious this is when a foreign government does it, when their own candidate, in a very specific way, as far as I'm concerned, all but invited the Ruskies or any other foreign government to do exactly the same thing. To me, it further supports how reckless she was, as Comey said, regarding the emails in the first place. You can't have that both ways.
I think it's interesting to hear him backpedal, though, like you said, because he used to double down. 6, 7, 8 months ago, he would just say, forget about it. He'd try to move on. He'd yell at the questioner, and he even did that a little bit this past week when someone was trying to press him in one of his news conferences. But now I think you are seeing a little bit of a change where, man, maybe I can't just say anything, because I do need other people besides my rabid base.
He rarely backpedals.
He rarely backpedals. And this isn't even really a backpedal. He's trying to just kind of spin out of it and say, no, I was just being sarcastic. I didn't mean anything like that. A year ago, he might have doubled down on the thing and said, no, I meant it. Go ahead.
Coming up on Enough Said.
The signs are good. I will remind folks, though, during Favre's season, the good season,
2009,
8-1, the Vikings announced what?
Brad Childress
contract extension because he's proven himself, and he's going to be here forever.
Fired less than a year later.
Exactly right. So it tells you there are no.
I love camp. I love everything about it. I love football. I love being away. It's been a long time since I got to get away for camp, so it's fun. You get to be with the guys, play football all day, dip your face off, and just laugh.
I've certainly enjoyed every minute of it and want to enjoy this year. But it's not about enjoying it. It's only fun when you're winning, and so I'm here to play football and play as well as I can play.
Welcome back to Enough Said. The Vikings kick off training camp in Mankato, and Coach Zimmer signs a contract extension. Predictions for the season, guys.
Way too early for predictions.
Did you already say 13-3? This is the time for predictions.
You said, I think you said 12-4.
I said 12-4.
I might have said, I think when we did the schedule, I went.
I've completely backed off on all that, by the way, but go ahead.
Well, the Zimmer news, I think, is not totally surprising. And my guess in talking to some people is that it might have more to do with the money than it does the years
term.
That. Although that's never been established, he was pretty low in the deal. And I think the signs are good. I will remind folks, though, during Favre's season, the good season,
2009,
8-1, the Vikings announced what?
Brad Childress contract
extension because he's proven himself, and he's going to be here forever.
Fired less than a year later.
Exactly right. So it tells you there are no guarantees. And I know a lot of people feel better about Zim than they did Chili. I do. I think you do
love Zimmer
as well. But it's a long way from here to there. And the interesting thing about this season is it sets up with a lot of optimism, which in effect takes away one of Zim's mantras, isn't it?
Or does it?
Or does he invent one?
Well, I think he already did.
And
you
the
saw
mantra
the quote.
we should say is that nobody respects
Lack
us.
of respect.
Everybody respects this team now, so I don't know how he's going to sell that with a straight face.
He says he's found somebody, and he was going to bring it up in the meeting. I don't know if it was one person or a couple, but that is in-season Zim, right? We've talked about the different Zimmers.
Yes.
Off-season Zim is the guy who loves how they work, and I'm canceling practice for OTAs because the hay's in the barn. We've done everything. He's already in-season Zim, where apparently he has found somebody, one person.
A writer from
wherever,
Paraguay.
who doesn't think they're going to be in the top half of the NFC.
Yeah.
I don't think that person exists from what they did
Not
a year ago.
Not anybody reputable.
I wouldn't think so. No, you could find a crazy person, a top half of the NFC. How many teams are in there? 15, 16? Yeah. So top 7 or 8 teams. So he's already found that, and he said he was going to bring it up in the meeting last night. We were there today, obviously. Everybody loves the Vikings. They think they're the team on the rise. I would warn about the team to the east maybe coming back. And I'm talking about the Green Bay Packers.
They're going to be healthier.
With your guy, hot yoga guy.
He's off cheese.
He's off cheese.
He weighs like 150 pounds, but he's just sculpted.
And he's used to Olivia Munn now, so that's not a distraction. So, we move on when we say Packers.
We're just starting.
I knew this show goes fast. Let's go to baseball. Let's talk about
TV home of the Vikings.
Yeah. Let's talk about Chris Sale. He is back. He was suspended after he cut up his team's throwback uniforms. His agent said that the jerseys were uncomfortable and they were more interested in jersey sales instead of winning. Justin.
I agree with his agent and Chris Sale that organizations oftentimes are more worried about marketing and selling things than they are winning. To Chris Sale, I would say, where have you been the last 25 years? Alert the media, Lindbergh, baby, and that's part of the reason why you make huge salaries. On the main point, grow up, Chris. I understand. I understand pro athletes are creatures of habit, and I bet that would be annoying. And should this have been handled a different way on the front end? But once either just quietly take yourself out and say, I'm not comfortable, but to go around like a child, like Giovanzi, your daughter, with scissors, cutting things is insane.
Well, and again, think if an attendant, a jock washer, out of bitterness for, I don't know, not getting a raise, if he did that, he'd be fired.
He would be.
He'd be fired. And that's part of the entitlement deal with Sale. He knows he can't be fired, and so he's a guy who knows he can get away with that kind of childishness. Some people have tried to actually say, well, he was actually doing it for the rest of the team because they felt the same way. Then they all
well, we know this
up.
team.
What a bunch of babies.
Well, this is the team that was devastated when a 14-year-old.
Including Sale.
He was right there. He was the one who hung the LaRoche jersey.
Correct.
Drake, I think the young man's name was. And
Drake was the kid.
Obviously,
he was the key to their leadership.
He was. Well, maybe
in the clubhouse.
And sadly, I think they were right.
Well, can't you also just if you're the pitcher? I've seen this done where you alter it a little bit.
Should be able to.
No one's going to, I think, say, wait a minute, his uniform is not quite as throwbacky as the others. The idea that this was that complicated, and he makes it still sound like he was taking some kind of a courageous political stance.
But in his mind,
grow up.
I know. In his mind, he was thinking that.
Although we take him.
I would take him.
We'd take him in a minute, wouldn't we?
I would have traded
Next
Nunez for him. That would have been good.
Let's stay on baseball. The Twins still haven't named a replacement for former general manager Terry Ryan. He had been with the team since 1986. Who do you guys think should lead the team? Dan, go for it.
Well, it ain't going to be the interim guy who has made a trade that some people like. Who do we trade?
We traded Eduardo Nunez
for a pitcher
who was responsible for all 3 outs in the final inning of the All-Star game.
Remember when that was a big deal?
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
That probably upped his trade value. They traded him for a younger pitcher who I think is in AAA right now.
Allegedly a top 100 prospect.
That's what they say, and he might be able to help him down the road.
It ain't going to be Rob Anthony who's in the position interim. I don't think this trade is going to be hailed to a place where, we'll put it this way, he shouldn't be. And it's nothing against him.
No.
We've talked about this forever. They finally did what they needed to do. Now that should give them the time to do the proper due diligence and go out completely outside this organization, someone who can take a fresh look, an objective look at the veteran talent, at the young talent, and stop pretending you've got more than you really do because you're so invested in it, because you picked it and you're afraid if you admit the truth about it that then you'll be exposed. Whether they have the capability of looking in the right places, I don't know. They've hired your guys.
They've hired the search firm, and
I'd rather Korn Ferry find us some pitchers than a general manager.
But they do it indirectly. They do it indirectly by hiring a general manager.
But they're not always right. They've made a couple of bad calls too.
But they have. But you at least get names that you might not have otherwise thought of, and you can find out that people are interested that maybe don't want their names in the papers, searching for jobs. You don't know what you don't know, and we've talked about the poll ads and Glenn Taylor, who hired a search firm, not knowing what they don't know. They can be beneficial, and when you don't know it, you got to go find somebody that does, and hopefully that's not the only thing they utilize, but it was an important step.
Does it bother you at all, though? We're still getting these quotes from within the organization that in terms of, well, how much control will this person have? And the comeback from Dave St. Peter is, well, we're all in this together, and we'll be curious to say, no.
Well, that's going to limit your pool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They've already limited it by saying Molly's got to be the manager. If you're going to do this right and get somebody good and pay for him, you have to be prepared to get out of the way and say, you got the keys. We did our due diligence to hire you, and now we think you've got complete control over the next direction this organization takes.
Is it possible that the reading of the media guides that Jim Pohlad did is going to be a good step? Because
is he going to find anybody lovable?
Well, that's a huge question, and I assume Corn Ferry, that's one of the boxes that they have to check. Lovable.
That was a box
one.
Hillary Clinton checked.
Last night.
She got into the love.
Chelsea
Trumps,
talked about the letters
whatever.
that she wrote. I got misty thinking about that.
Of course you did. You saw.
But the search firm, has to find somebody, and is it going to be a director of baseball operations, which is the new school thing?
Yeah.
That's what every team has.
What does that mean?
That's why I brought up.
Coming up on Enough Said.
I'm shocked, by the way, that an actor might lean left a little bit. Had that ever occurred to you, that someone that has spent a lot of time in Hollywood and maybe has those Hollywood sensibilities, that they might find themselves on the left side of the aisle at the Democratic National Convention? I'm shocked.
It's sad. The whole thing is.
Welcome back to Enough Said. Actor Bradley Cooper is taking some heat after he was spotted in the crowd at the Democratic National Convention. He is known for his portrayal of Navy SEAL Chris Kyle in American Sniper. Kyle, known as a right-wing icon. Some people going as far as boycotting Cooper because of his political stance after playing his role in the Oscar-nominated film. One thing I read is Julia Roberts was not a prostitute and Arnold Schwarzenegger was not, or is not, a robot. What do you guys think about this?
Not sure about the latter. The former I would agree with, but I'm not sure about Schwarzenegger and the robot
Yeah,
thing.
you can't be sure of that,
no,
can you?
I'm not ruling anything out.
Well, when you factor in the stuff that was going on at home, I don't know. See, he was more than a robot, apparently.
That's true.
Another story.
That's
allegedly.
Very true. You got to give Bradley Cooper credit for his acting chops, though, that he could convince America, basically, that he is this right-wing guy. I'm shocked, by the way, that an actor might lean left a little bit. Had that ever occurred to you, that someone that has spent a lot of time in Hollywood and maybe has those Hollywood sensibilities, that they might find themselves on the left side of the aisle at the Democratic National Convention? I'm shocked.
It's sad. The whole thing is so stupid
It's
that,
true.
I mean, it's just beyond stupid that because a guy plays a role,
It's a huge issue now.
he's then obligated. In other words, according to them, if Cooper had said, it's my hometown city,
Philadelphia.
I think he is Philadelphia.
Yep.
I think he said he is a Democrat. I'm going to go to the convention. But I played Kyle. He's a right-wing icon. I'm going to have to reconsider. That would have been the most absurd thing to do. And look, that's the age we're in, though.
It is.
I mean, I tweeted out that Fran Tarkenton was going to speak at the Republican convention. And I got some reaction, same thing, like, well, I'll never look at Fran the same. And I'm going, really?
I know.
I mean, are we really at that point?
We are.
And that's sadly we are, where suddenly you're going to look at somebody differently if they exercise their right just to basically show up.
Be there.
And Fran spoke.
Fran did.
But in Cooper's case, be at a convention. I don't think he was even holding up any signs, I hate righties or, whatever. And guess what? He's obligated to do it. He's playing a role. He's not. The icon should be Kyle.
Yes.
Not the person who plays him. And shouldn't you still give him credit for what a good job he did playing him? That's all that should matter, that he respected the role enough that he did such a, by most people's account,
very good
an
job.
Acclaimed job of capturing the essence of him. He ain't him.
He looked a lot happier to be there than Bernie Sanders did, though. Did you notice that? Every time they flashed to Bernie, it's like, I would rather be anywhere else.
He was either blubbering or looked like he was passing a kidney stone, one or the
one
other.
of the two.
Oh, okay, let's go to the lightning round.
On that note,
the man who tried to assassinate President Ronald Reagan gets to leave the mental hospital permanently. A judge ruled John Hinckley Jr. is no longer a threat to society. Dan?
Well, look, I'm going to trust the process.
I know.
It's hard to, and let's be honest, we tend to be more militant about this if it involves somebody famous or a president or a celebrity. Exactly. I guess I'll trust the process. It's you win.
It feels like there should be different rules for someone who tries to kill the president.
There should, I guess, but should there?
Definition.
Well, because I mean, it's volatile. Like the RFK guy, Sirhan he's tried to get out. I don't know, like 52 times.
Yeah.
To this point, I still think he has not been able to.
Next up, if you were one of the millions of people who dumped cold ice water, buckets of water over your head for ALS, Because of that, the University of Massachusetts has discovered a gene that contributes to ALS. Justin.
It's a great message on why we do these things, right? And at the time, we were part of it. Lou Nanny nominated us. I don't think we did the bucket, but we donated. That was our way out of doing the bucket.
Yeah.
And they raised over $100 million, and now they've been able to get these studies up and running faster, and they found this breakthrough. It's a good reminder of why you do it. And it's nice to actually, because we give money, everybody gives money, right? A certain amount.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see it pay off, as sad as that sounds. Sometimes you feel like, gosh, we're trying, we're chipping at the rock, and now it seems like they've got something here.
It's very reinforcing.
Yeah,
Next
exactly
up,
right.
Sesame Street is being reworked for our technology-savvy generation, they say. But it cut 3 of its favorite human cast members, Bob, Gordon, and Luis. The show is moving to HBO. Justin.
You devastated?
Well, I think it's a...
Did you grow up on that show?
Yes.
That's your generation.
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot of people's generation.
Not mine. I was Three Stooges.
And that explains a lot.
Well, that probably
with Bob
does.
Gordon and whoever the other one was.
Mo, Larry, Curly.
That's the way that everything's going, right? We're cutting.
Although Shemp wasn't bad.
Was he good?
Yeah, he was solid.
We're cutting people out of manufacturing jobs. We're cutting people out of We're all going to be replaced by robots at some point. It might as well. The kids might as well learn that early on.
Real life, kids. Let it hit. It's going to hit you in the face, but too bad. You got to get used to it, right?
Brett Favre is hitting the airwaves. He is going to start a hour-long program on satellite radio. Dan.
Well, I'm
not long enough, first of all.
That's true. See, I'm very excited about it because a couple people I see said, well, who's he going to interview? And I said, I hope he interviews himself.
Nobody.
He doesn't need anybody else. He could fill entire shows asking questions that are almost as long as mine and definitely giving answers that are longer than mine and be interesting. I'm convinced of it. He should never have a guest on the program because you know what's going to happen?
What's that?
He's going to end up making it about himself anyway, even
That's
when
true.
he does have a guest.
There's 2 problems. It's not long enough. I need more Favre, and I'm worried about what time this show airs because if it's during ours, I have a serious commitment to our show. I might have to, more than I usually do.
I'm used to it.
I can't wait for this show.
Uh-oh, competition. Check out this tweet. Adrian Peterson posted a picture to Twitter. Said, I could no longer withhold this from you. Oh, my secret is out. I am Donatello. Dan.
I'm glad he threw it to him on this.
Now, is that a mask? What is that he's wearing?
That's the Ninja Turtle mask. They've all got different colors that they wear. There's 4 of them.
Will that help him, if he wore that during a game, will that help him pick up a blitz a little better than he usually does?
If it was the Raphael mask, yes. Donatello is
not
the
so
fumbler.
much.
That's the problem. And I think Michelangelo can do everything. Michelangelo, he was the party dude, but he's also the guy that can basically do it all. He's your 3-down back. He can pick up blitzes. He can catch.
Justin, you probably grew up on Ninja Turtles, too.
I did, absolutely.
Okay,
I
let's
just rattled them all off.
They
Yeah, they had nunchucks.
Okay,
Splinter was the rat in the sewer.
That explains a lot.
I forgot the reporter's name, though, the only girl in it. Anyway, let's talk about corn sweat. It is a term that is sweeping the nation, the heat wave, #corn sweat. Dan.
Well, it's another, I got to give credit to the weather terrorists because they come up with stuff that maybe it's always been true, that corn sweat, like in the Midwest, contributes to the humidity. When we had the heat dome upon us?
The heat dome.
And basically,
keeping the heat in.
Minneapolis-St. Paul was going to cease to exist. Was that a week ago?
Yes.
Yeah, and we all somehow survived it.
Barely.
It didn't get quite as bad for as long as I think they originally predicted. But apparently there is such a thing. And they're smart in the weather terror because the key to that is terms. Heat dome, corn sweat, Doppler, all this fancy stuff, whether it's fancy terms or different, that's what people go, whoa, there might be something
corn
there.
Sweat.
And that's how people get scared off.
It's a great water cooler conversation because you can sound enlightened and you can sound smart that you know. Well, I heard Ian Leonard on Fox 9 say corn sweat.
Good drop in.
And
right
reminder, I think he's Mr. Sky Aware.
Stay hydrated.
You're going to have to stay hydrated, stay Sky Aware, and now you're going to have to be corn aware, especially here in the cornfields where we live.
Somebody also said that there was some big storm back in